Hey everyone, welcome back. We're here again. You might recognize this familiar face, Adam. How about you say hi to everyone while I tweet out this link?
Hey, good evening, everyone. Adam here from WeRank. Looking forward to talking to you tonight about some accessibility features, which will be a nice little break from some of the heavy core web vital stuff we've been doing for the last month.
Right. Yeah, we've been talking about nothing but Core Web Vitals. I feel like I dream about Core Web Vitals every night. Okay, so I'm just going to tweet out this link for everyone just while we're waiting. Why don't you let us know where you're coming in from? Tell us where you're watching from. I know that this is earlier. We do the earlier ones with Adam. We do the later ones with Nils so that everyone can get a little piece of the WooRank pie. So let us know where you're watching from. And also, just as a reminder, like, subscribe. That is how you can get informed about all of our new content. If we're going live with a special announcement, or if we're going live with a new feature, or if we're just talking about SEO, then definitely just let us know and like and subscribe, and then you'll get all of the notifications. Okay, so we're live. Join us now. So Adam, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what we're going to be talking about so I don't have to multitask so horribly.
Okay. Well, tonight it's so it's still on the accessibility theme, which is kind of been the theme for Core Web Vitals. However, what we're looking at tonight are a couple of, I think they're quite simple things, but again, like with a lot of SEO, misunderstood, misinterpreted sometimes, and I've even had questions from people, why does it matter? And what are we talking about? We're really essentially two things. So the navigation of a website, and we'll go into this in detail, but essentially how do you move around a website from a usability point of view, and also from a semantic structure. So when we talk about semantic structure, we're talking about heading 1s and heading 2s and words that are in bold and italic and things like that. So that's kind of, I guess, the theme for tonight is breaking that down, looking at a couple live reviews that we've got on file that we've kindly been given access to, and then taking a look at the websites and actually sort of comparing what the report is saying to the real life experience, why it matters, why this stuff is in our report and why Google's looking at it.
And if you remember a few weeks ago, Nils and I actually spoke about a lot of this, just the technical parts of it. So what is what is website accessibility? It doesn't necessarily mean like, can someone log into my site and can someone see my content? It's not really about that. It's can everybody, regardless of who they are, regardless of what potential disability they might have, regardless of what browser they're using, can they interact with my content? Can they understand my content? Is it visually pleasing? Is it easy to navigate around the website without needing to constantly use my mouse or anything like that? So it's really, Nils and I covered the more technical aspects of everything. And now Adam and I are going to talk about the more practical stuff. So also, if you remember a few months ago, maybe last month, a few of you bravely volunteered your website to be reviewed for Core Web Vitals. Well, we dipped into the same pool, so don't worry, we didn't choose at random. I know people tend to really freak out about that we're just going to choose any random website. No, you had to have volunteered. So we dip back into that pool today, and we're going to be looking at whether or not your websites have the correct color contrast, whether or not your navigation is correct, and what maybe that might mean for your users, because it's not necessarily all about like, oh, I ticked off every WooRank box, now I'm ready. Like, you do have to look at the larger picture and see, okay, why is this important for my users? Why is it something that I should really focus on so that my users have the best possible experience on my page? Okay, so I think everybody that's going to log in on time is here. So Adam, why don't we get started? I'll add your screen. Are you ready for me to add the screen to the?
Yep, I've got all the not safe for work stuff away, so go for it.
Well, maybe I should close some caps. We are going to field some just like general SEO questions at the end. So if you have any questions throughout, feel free to put them in the chat, and we can talk a little bit about that after we deal with the accessibility bonanza. Hi, Ariana. Sorry. Hi, Ariana. All right, Adam, take it away.
All right, so I will just zoom that in a couple of times, just in case. All right, so I'm going to look at a couple of reviews that have been put through our system, put through WooRank, And like we said, we're going to look at the accessibility features, the new crits that we're featuring on the reports, and kind of just relate why it's important. So we've got a bunch of websites here that we've carefully selected and prepared earlier. I'm going to kind of work my way from the bottom up. We might not go through all of them. I'm just going to go through to really illustrate some points. So I'm just going to click on the review and I'm going to jump straight down to accessibility. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for, and this is a good example, I think, because I've actually seen this type of thing come up before, where you have text on white and it doesn't pass the contrast test. And a lot of people think, well, that's crazy, right? Text on white, how much more contrast can you go? So that's got an error here. And you see I can click on that, expand it, and I'm getting all the different elements that have basically the ratio is not right. So the contrast of the white background to what's actually, and it might not be showing up very well on this broadcast, but the text here is kind of like it's a gray, it's a medium gray, and that's where the issue is. So we'll touch on that, and then we'll go down here and we'll look at why the navigation is also failing. Now, in saying that, it's actually passing 3 checks, but we're having some issues with, again, the semantic elements or the kind of the formatting. So we're not critiquing here the structure of the website, like the navigation layout, like the divs in the code and stuff. We're really looking at the styling here, the styling and the formatting. And these are things that you should be able to fix yourself in your CMS system. And a lot of you are using WordPress, so this will be quite easy fixes. So I'm hoping that you guys can, if you are seeing these errors, you better get straight in, sort them out, and then improve your rank score and improve your actual SEO. So let's start from the top, the first one, the contrast. And then let's go and have a look at the actual website, which I have loaded up. Okay, interstitial pop-up. Another reason why this is a good example website. So it's slightly different factor, but...
Shame.
Yeah. Now, it's not modal, so it did actually disappear. It didn't force me to interact with it, which is good. But that pop-up can be a little troublesome. So you need to watch that because Google kind of sees, well, 2 issues there. One is you're forcing someone to read something, but it was actually easy to dismiss just by clicking outside of it. I didn't have to find the little X button to close that window. So it wasn't modal. But you're also essentially creating an accessibility issue by putting a floating window on top of other text. So you just got to be careful with these interstitial pop-ups. Okay, but let's look at this side. So you might look at that and think the contrast looks great. We've got a white background, we've got dark text. What's going on here? Why is WooRank saying there's something wrong? So what it's basically picked up is a very subtle but important contrast issue, and that is, like I said, the white text on the gray background. The gray text on the white background already making mistakes. Now, some of this content is actually in normal black, which is pretty standard. They look fine. But some of this content is in a lighter gray, especially the hyperlinks. Now, I might zoom in a little bit. I really want to show you this. So again, the subtleties of this can be hard, picked up on a YouTube broadcast where everything's being sort of squashed down so that it's streaming to your device. But if you go to this website and take a look, you'll see that the text is actually kind of a gray color. Now, the hyperlink is a different gray again. It goes darker when you hover over it. It goes to, I think, what looks like almost a proper black. But what Google is essentially pointing out here is that the contrast of this text is not within the accessibility guidelines. So what that means is, while it looks great to probably 9 out of 10 people, to 1 out of 10 people trying to use the website, it doesn't look great at all. And
there's something to note too, like, if everybody who's watching is like, but I can see that just fine. Like, think about the people who use certain like screen dullers so that they can protect their eyes, or like if they use those special screen glasses that dull the blue light, that's going to not look as distinct to someone who's using something that intentionally dulls the light of a screen, right?
Yeah, and it's even worse when you're looking at this on a mobile device, and we've all got the night light settings, which takes away that blue light at nighttime. So all of a sudden, the blue takes away the white. When you take away blue, it starts to look a bit gray, and then all of a sudden, the contrast is just not there anymore. So what Google is essentially saying is, well, there are accessibility standards. There is a contrast ratio. There's some technical numbers. We've plugged those into WooRank, we've compared them, and we've actually come up that this text is a little short. So the simple fix to actually implement this fix is to go into your CMS, find where this content is styled. So this is, and if I don't want to go too far into the code side of it, I'm just going to inspect it, and I'm looking at the element of where this is so that I can see the hyperlink in there. I might also look at the page source. I often find that a little bit easier. And if I scroll down to, let's grab some of that text, then I'll search for it, and then I can actually find exactly, there it is. So it's a H2, it's a heading 2. That's just saying it's span, so it's even across the page. So the H2 color and then the span class, which will just be normal paragraph text, is what needs to be adjusted there. So whether you have a style sheet or that may even be styled. It's not inline styling, but it may have been styled by just the content management system. Can't tell what that is just on the top of my head without logging in. But basically, it looks like all the text is that same sort of gray. Certainly, the hyperlinks are all the same. They go from gray to sort of black. So ideally, what we would do here is, the obvious answer is to use some of your branding color. I would immediately change your hyperlinks so that they're probably black, and then they go to this sort of nice green, or at least a good shade of this nice green, or even a dark lime green when you hover. But I'm not a designer, and Rodrigo is probably laughing right now. He's a designer at WooRank. He's probably saying, no, don't say the green. But that would be a better contrast to go from that sort of a black text to a nice green, rather than this gray. And it's really popular, this gray text. I've used it a bunch of times, and it's a very popular color for font because it's softer on the eyes. But again, we have to make sure that our websites are accessible to everyone. Google is making sure of that. So we're raising it as an issue for you to check, because Google could be doing the very same exact thing and potentially penalizing you for it. So it's a very subtle one, this one. And that's why I wanted to show it.
If you scroll down, Adam, if you scroll down and expand the advice.
Oh, yeah.
So if you expand the advice, we actually have links to like color contrast checkers. So even before, if you're working on a new site, even before you publish, you can check to see whether your decided color scheme is going to actually translate to your website and be usable and accessible for your users before you. So you don't have to go back and like, oh, I have to change every page on my website. You can actually like pre-check this if you're building a website.
Yeah, definitely. And a good thing to also note too is when you start bolding and changing the size of text, that can change some of the sort of the scoring that happens. So bolding text makes it obviously a lot more prevalent. And also, if you're going to go through and use a heading 1, you can get away with less contrast in the colors. But yeah.
I just want to give a quick shout out. A former WooRanker just joined the stream. Hi, Andres. Hope that you're doing well. Thanks for watching. Hit us with some hard questions, but not too much. All right, Adam, go ahead. Sorry.
All right. So look, I think that's a good example of these ones. So that's really a problem that could be fixed quite simply just by looking at the styling of the website, because it all seems to be pretty much the same, that gray on the white. So if we now scroll down to the navigation section and take a look here, The most common issue you guys are going to come up against is this part failing. Not failing, but just not getting a 100% approval. And that is, again, what I mentioned before, is the semantic formatting of some elements. So the best way to sort of describe why this is important, and first what is actually happening here, is let's just, I had a doc, but we could do a doc. I'm going to quickly show you. It's so much easier. And I should have had this prepared before.
No, that's all right.
I was actually working on something and then I closed it. So, okay, let's just pretend this is my website. So, hello world. Welcome to my website. I know this is really small. Then we've got all the text here. I'll zoom in. Now, obviously, that's not so great. So we start formatting, and of course, the first section, you have as a heading 1. So this and if I can actually find it in, I really should have prepared this earlier.
That's okay. While you're formatting, I just want to also maybe supplement this with, like, we always talk about how SEO is not just like a series of tasks. It is all of these different cogs and elements that work together in conjunction to let Google decide if your website is worthy of being shown to a wide array of visitors. Now, the headings obviously are very, very important for accessibility, having them in sequential order, and Adam will explain why. But this is also another place where Google is looking at your keywords. So, those two things work in conjunction as well. So Google is looking at your H1 keywords to see if you're saying certain phrases in your H1 that match certain phrases that you're using in your content that match the certain phrases that are in your URL. So those are all sort of things that work together. So when you look at these certain like tasks to check off on WooRank, you should also bear in mind that it's not just impacting your accessibility. There are lots of other things that the heading elements play into with your whole SEO strategy. So just bear in mind that it's not like a freestanding thing. This is all working together. SEO is like a living, breathing thing forever.
Yeah, it always will be. That's absolutely the way. It's just continually being changed and updated to reflect what people are looking for in websites. So thank you. That was a great distraction. I managed to quickly pen out my headings there. So as you can see, I've got it structured like I would write a document, and that's really what is being referred to here. Is your website is a document. It's a document that people are reading. It's an electronic document. We call it a website. We need to start with a H1. You wouldn't start a story with a H3. Now, what happens though is in the world of websites and CMS systems, and I do partially put some blame on WordPress for this, but back with the very early versions of WordPress, the easiest way to style your text was to change the heading and make it, and have a look at all the preset headings. To go in here and go, oh, I like that heading. Let's style my text with that. Now, what happens is we chose it for the style that we thought looked good, but in the same way we were breaking the instructions that the content was telling Google to read this text in. That shouldn't be. There's so many things wrong with that it's not gonna help any website that you do this with. So avoid styling the text in this way. It's a really easy habit to get into, and it's one that you really need to try and avoid at all costs. Each of these styles, and whether it's in WordPress or Word or any other CMS system, they're there for a reason. They're there to be structured sequentially. So the first one being a H1, that's the most important one. Then a H2, and then it can have some text, or you can even have text here. So it's a paragraph. I just put a P for paragraph. What is missing here is when we go from H2 to H4. So all of a sudden, Google's saying, well, where's the H3? Why did you jump to H4? Did I miss H3? Did you used to have one and maybe you've taken it out? So ideally, that would be a H3. And then Google would be happy. And then you can have your H4 under that. Let's change that style to H4. So as long as you sequentially use this, you'll be fine. There's lots of also debate and questions about how many H1s should you use. And the main thing is, and Google, John Mueller have said this over and over and over on Twitter, is don't focus too much about trying to use the heading tags to score points. Use it to create really good content, to lay out your content in a meaningful way. And then when we look at a website, to see the same thing. So what this is sort of saying is that, well, it's found a H3 and a H4 here. And more than likely, if we go in and start looking for that code, what we'll find is there may not be a H2 above it. But at this point, the scan has found an error and is saying this is a H3 and it shouldn't be here. There's something preceding it. So this is the point where you need to start looking to find that error and fix it. And I'll take you to another example, but it can be a little bit tricky to understand what's happening there. So Ace Auto, load at his, jump down to accessibility. And as you can see, so with this website, I'll just show you the web. All right. So the H5 class. So we don't actually see a lot of H5s used. That's fine. You can use them. There's no negative thing about that. That's fine. Perfectly understandable. But it just so happens that it's being used in a place where, in the footer, by the looks, the contact title, that it is out of place. There's nothing preceding it that makes that a logical sequential order. It's probably this area here. So you'll find that the footer has been styled to use a H5 because the H5 looks good in the content management system. That's more than likely all that is. And to fix that, you can simply edit the styling. You can talk to your website designer about changing some of your CSS styling so that it looks the way you want it to look, but you can use the correct heading tags and heading structures, and then you'll get that passed. Not a problem at all. Do you think that's a sort of fairly straightforward example?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to dive too much into the code because I know that can throw people if they're not used to it.
And luckily, I mean, you guys had volunteered a lot of really good sites, which is great for you, but not so great for us sometimes because we want to show like the actual errors. But so something to also bear in mind, like what we're looking at with these accessibility, there are actually 5 checks, and you can go back to Nils's webinar to see what all 5 of those checks are. But it's important to note that not every check is going to be relevant for your website. So for instance, like seeing if you can actually like tab index. So meaning like when you're filling out a form, can you use the tab button to fill out the other elements of the form? Not every page has a form. So that's not going to be something that we ding you for if you don't have a form on your page. It's just like not relevant for your page. Yep. So definitely like take a look and be sure to do those internal page reviews as well, because other pages have other elements. Like your lead generation on your website is going to have a form. So that's something that you want to check on the internal page reviews. And then also like your main homepage, you want to make sure that those heading elements are like nice and sequentially descending. And you want to make sure, especially for your homepage, that your content is nice and contrasted so that people can read your content, because the homepage is usually the first touch point and what will motivate them to visit other pages of your site. So you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just double checked, this site is actually good in terms of the tab format. So I remember the days of creating websites by hand, and you'd specify in the code the actual tab sequence that you wanted, and most CMSs will do this for you. So we're kind of double checking that for you to make sure that it's all up to speed. So you can see I can tab through the different fields, and if I have an accessibility issue and I can't use my mouse but I'm relying on my tab button, that's really important. And if all of a sudden I couldn't use my tab, that would be really annoying.
Yeah, especially for people who like work with computers for a living, like Adam and I, and any developer, or really anybody who works on websites. If you encounter a website that doesn't let you do that tab option, it's just so frustrating for people who use that just so second nature, just using the keyboard only without using their mouse. So, I mean, it's not only just about making sure your site is accessible for people who might have a disability. It's also for people who just prefer to navigate websites that way as well, you know?
And that's the thing, that's what accessibility is all about, being accessible to everyone. And again, whether we like it or not, or you like to use a tab button or not, it's there on every keyboard, and Google expects us as web producers to embrace that and make these websites completely accessible. So yeah, that's pretty much accessibility. In terms of these two crits that we're looking at, is the navigation and the contrast. And this was a good website too. Just quickly, the Safari website actually got a really good score. Really high score, passed the navigation completely, but just has that same issue with that light gray font that everyone's so fond of on the white background. So again, that's really the only issue there, and that's a really simple fix. You just got to go in, you use the contrast tool to find a font color that you're happy with, and as soon as it makes the the measurability grade, go for it. Just implement it straight away, and you fix the website.
I want to quickly touch on a panic question that we got last time, and also a panic question that I got during a demo. Oh my gosh, my contrast is not good. Does this mean I need to rebrand? No, it doesn't mean you need to rebrand. Like, don't, go into a panic spiral of, I just got everything designed. I have all of my assets. I just have my logo created. Like, no, you don't need to rebrand. But there is a certain amount of evolution that you can do with your color. If you've been with WooRank even any longer than a year, you'll notice that our color has become more saturated. It's become a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more alive. But we still use that same WooRank blue. So there are kind of variations of the same color scheme that you can use just to make things pop a little bit more and make things just visually more appealing without having to do a total complete rebrand.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. It can be a very simple change to fix that. And that's what I like about these two crits. Pretty easy to fix.
Okay, so I think we've covered the live example. So we can start taking some questions if that's okay with you, Adam. We have some
absolutely.
Great. So these are just kind of more general SEO questions. So we'll go first with, okay, so we have, I'm going to stop sharing you. All right. So share this on the screen. How much time on SEO do you recommend that I spend on a weekly basis? My website score is currently 58, and I need to get it to 85 plus by the end of the year. Is this realistic?
That's a good question. Okay. I often had a number in my head that I would tell people that this question, and it was normally, I would say, a day a month for a website. Look, and that's just, taking a really random number. But if you want to do sort of good SEO, if you want to do good content management of your website, you really should be thinking about a day per month. And I say as a day per month because often it's actually better, more productive if you can sit down and do your SEO for a particular website, your own website or a client's in the one session. It's not possible to knock it all over. Sometimes you have to go to the client, maybe get a blog approved or maybe some feedback. But you can knock most of it off, 80% of it in that one hit. And it's good to go in and do that, get it done. If you were to focus, that sort of one solid day a month on your website as a minimum, I don't see why you can't get up to a nice green score in the 80s by the end of the year. That gives you 6 to 7 full days of work, and that's enough to make a huge difference. So yeah, I'd say that's a good goal, and I wish you luck and good luck. Yeah, great, get it done.
Definitely. And I mean, once a month is definitely the minimum, because one other thing to probably note is that SEO is anything but static. There are often going to be, even within the same year, there's often going to be algorithm updates. There's going to be things that are no longer relevant. Whereas, Sometimes the Google staff will sneakily go on Twitter and be like, oh, hey, by the way, this is like super important, bye. And that happens more often than we'd like it to happen. But that's something to really pay attention to. So even if, you go in, you get your score to 70, which is when your score in WooRank will turn green. But then maybe we'll add a criteria that is really important. For instance, Core Web Vitals. I know we're talking until we're blue in the face about Core Web Vitals, but we're actually adding a bunch of criteria into our review so that you can make sure that you're ready for this page experience update. So maybe you log back in on your one day of the month, like next month, and all of a sudden your score is dipped to a 65 or 64 because you actually don't pass any of those Core Web Vitals criteria. So it is important to definitely pay attention and notice when things are changing in the SEO world to make sure that you are still on the right track and doing the right things.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me take this. I can never figure out how to take these questions off. Okay, hide. All right, we've got another one from our buddy Kevin Teenley Brewer. I have content issues, as you've shown. I managed to fix the main areas, but there are other areas within the site that I don't know how to access. My website developer is not engaging. What do I do?
Okay, so it could be, typically the hard to access areas might be things that are in your footer, or in fact, I was looking at one earlier today, prepping myself for this webinar, and I saw a site that had a client testimonial banner system. And what the code actually did, it didn't really do it in the best way, but it kind of loaded the code, showed the client testimonials, and then about 1.5 seconds later, like really, really fast, it kind of got rid of them and then brought some more in. And I was going to bring it up tonight, but I brought it up now. I have brought it up. But it's what you're talking about. There was the code in that was producing, so there was a script that produced the banner, and then the banner itself produced the pictures and the little picture of the person and then the quote bubble. And it was within that had the contrast issues because the actual bubble color was very, very similar. It was a dark blue and the text was black. And yeah, in someone's wisdom, they had created this bubble to be in this contrast. Now, the only way that this person could fix that, because it was provided by a third party, would be to go to that third party. So, there are things out there, like some people might use Elf Site or these other kind of apps that generate smart widgets for your website. You may need to go back to them and say, hey, your widget's causing contrast issues. How do I fix that? Because your only control is the fact that you've got a script embedded into your code. You can't actually get in there and sort of tweak all those settings. So yeah, if your developer's not engaging, I'm not sure what you should do to that. Just ask nicer.
Yeah, or get a new developer. I mean, if they're not doing what you're paying them to do, then
yeah, definitely. Definitely get onto that. But just see if it is one of those third-party scripts that are pulling in data from somewhere else and triggering the error.
Right. Yeah, and this is also something to note as well, that if it's something that you literally can't fix, if it is one of these third-party things that you literally cannot fix, there's no way the people from that third party are not responding to you, or they're saying, we don't care, we're not fixing it, and you don't have access to, you have two options. Either you can find another provider to do the same exact thing, because the internet is just saturated with like a million of the same functioning tools, or you can just say, well, all right, oh well, and just decide to take the L for that one. One element on your website not functioning perfectly is not going to make or break your overall SEO performance. There are certain things that are more important than others. You can definitely see that in the WooRank review. We show you which is going to have the highest impact. Of course, it's important to fix, but if it's literally impossible for you to fix, you don't have to get all in your head about it. You can decide to maybe just say, okay, I'll take the L.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. That's a really good point.
Okay, so another question that we just got in: are too many backlinks a bad thing? Can it affect my SEO score negatively?
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, I don't know how many of you sort of remember Matt Cutts with the machete, saying take a machete to your backlinks. Yeah, absolutely. If you've got a lot of bad backlinks, a lot of toxic backlinks, low quality backlinks, and they're pointing at your website, that can definitely affect the credibility of your whole backlink profile. In fact, it's not uncommon to suddenly find that your website has attracted thousands or even perhaps tens of thousands of really toxic links or disputable quality links from places that you have no idea why or where they've come from. And that's where you would go into looking at using a tool to sort through them and disavowing them. So the opposite side to that is focusing on the good quality link creation. And it's the hardest thing out of all the pillars of SEO. It's the one thing that is really difficult to affect yourself, is to go out and put a link on someone else's website. You just can't do that unless you own that website. So where you do use social media, that's the best way to get some good quality backlinks, is to write the content, the type of content that is going to be shared on social media. And yeah, just keep an eye on those incoming backlinks on Google Search Console for a start, and look at a disavow process if it gets too much. Yep.
Yeah, anecdotally, I'm not going to embarrass them, but I did have a demo with someone who was trying out WooRank, and we got down to the backlink section, and they had over 9,000 backlinks. And they were like, but why am I getting a bad score for this? Why do I have a bad score? And they were coming from 12 domains.
Yeah.
Not lots of backlinks coming from only 12 different domains, meaning that each domain was giving them roughly 1,000 backlinks. Like that's not, and each and every one of those backlinks, by the way, was a 0-star backlink. And they're like, I don't understand. And it's something I really try to drive into our customers and our viewers here minds is it's quality over quantity. I mean, 1 3-star backlink is worth 9,000 0-star backlinks, Getting something from Forbes.com is way better than getting something from like Joe's Tea Room whatever, like something that has no topic whatsoever from a million different places. Okay, so does anyone have any other questions? No other real questions coming in to the chat right now. So just while people are putting in their last minute questions, I will do a little housekeeping. So I was going to tease something, but they're doing maintenance on it right now, so I'm just going to tell you about it instead. So you probably know, just based on watching our webinars, that we are releasing a brand new feature within the WooRank Assistant. So the WooRank Assistant, actually, I can show you at least the WooRank Assistant part of it. Share my screen. You should be able to see it here soon. Chrome tab. Okay, so can you see? Great. Okay. So the WooRank Assistant is this little widget here that you can actually implement on your own website to get all of that data, that really, really important WooRank data right there on your site. So you don't have to constantly be flipping back and forth between different tabs. It's going to give you the full report for each and every one of your pages. So instead of manually doing those page reviews, you actually have that all living just right there on your site. You can really quickly flip to the improvements. You can really quickly flip to the errors. If you've made a change, you can just go ahead and refresh your WooRank review right there within the actual WooRank Assistant, again, without having to go back into the WooRank ecosystem. So it's all huge time saver. It's really, really cool. You can see these changes being made in real time. Super awesome. If you're currently a WooRank subscriber, all you need to do is just start your project, go to the settings page, and you'll find your unique code. It's actually really, really easy to implement. As long as you have access to your CMS or your Google Tag Manager, then you can very, very easily implement this. Now, what we have now is this new beta tab. Again, they are doing maintenance on it, so I'm not going to show until we kind of like shine it up a little bit. But what we're actually checking for now is the Google Core Web Vitals for each individual page. So we're looking at those 3 really important metrics for those pages. We're looking at your largest contentful paint, your first input delay, and your cumulative layout shift. So we look to see your score for each of those individual elements for each individual page and see if there are areas that you need to improve. If you're not familiar with the words that I just said, go to the WooRank blog. We have a lot of resources to help you understand what Google is actually looking at. And of course, as we always say, it's not just about Google. It's not like, we're not playing Google's game. This is actually really important for your users' page experience. So what we're going to be doing, as I said, is we're going to be evaluating every page to see, if you are passing these Google Core Web Vitals metrics. That said, we are in beta, which is why I can't show it to you right now, but we're really looking for beta testers. If we're going to be kind of the leading Core Web Vital checker tester in the market, we need your feedback. We need you to tell us, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, it didn't work on this page, why is the information presented like this? We need your feedback. So if you're interested in testing, you do have to currently have a WooRank account so you can get that WooRank assistant, but we do have a 14-day free trial. So if you're interested and you have a current WooRank account, just email me, Courtney@woorank.com, and then we can get you set up on the beta list. We're looking to launch this next week. So if you have already signed up for the beta and you're like, where's my access? We're currently just fixing everything up, and we should be ready really, really soon to show you this. All right. Looks
Awesome.
like no more questions have come in. So guys, next month, we are actually, going back to Core Web Vitals. We've actually added a ton of new criteria, as I mentioned before, into our review. So we're looking at those layout shift elements. We're looking at that contentful paint. We're looking at first input delay. We're actually implementing that within our WooRank review. And we're going to show you more in depth the assistant that I was not able to show you as much today. So stay tuned for a date. We haven't decided on a date, but stay tuned for that. It'll be in the end of June. And in the meantime, be sure to like, subscribe, so that if you don't get the email, or if you're not on our email list, you'll be let know when we're going to be going live again. All right. Absolutely. That was a lot of talking that I just
did. Yeah, that was great.
Coffee. Okay. So thank you, Adam, again, for all of your expertise. And I think it's probably your bedtime, so I'll let you go. And thanks everyone for watching and staying engaged, and we'll see you next time.
Enjoy the blood moon tonight too.
Yes, watch the blood moon.
Yeah.
Full moon, blood moon.
I'm going out to look at it now, and then the rest of the world, you'll be getting it shortly.
Yeah. All right. Bye, Adam. Bye, everyone. Thanks.